you know. And
One right over here, it's old 11-room house over here.
Yeah.
And built it here.
and over there where Darwood and Rosie lived was another storage
There
house.
it's over there, you know.
Was that Darwood's grandpa?
Yeah.
It's grandpa.
What's your full name?
Leona Alberta Stone.
Leona Stone.
Yeah, that's what I go by.
Okay. Today's May 4th, 1988. This is
Yeah.
Joe Todd, an interview with Leona Stone, and we're in
Fort Taft.
Fort
South
Taft.
Fort Taft.
South,
Towson, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
southwest of this.
Man, where were you born?
Down here close to Mouth Kiamichi,
And when's your birthday?
28th of January,
Me.
1899.
1899.
That's Bobby, and
That's Bobby.
he was here a while ago and picked up the paper. Him and his little dog,
Who was your father?
Frank. Well, his name was Francis Luther Cowan, but everybody called him Frank Cowan.
Cannon?
Cowan, C-O-W-A-N.
C-O-W-A-N.
He always said cow and calf and leave off the calf. Leave off the calf.
Yeah.
Cowan.
And who was your mother?
Rosie, Meggs. She was, you know.
M-E-G-G-S.
Uh-huh.
And where were they from?
Well, Mama was born here too. And I don't know where, I think Papa was born in Arkansas.
Are you talking about the Meggs?
No, Papa. He's talking about my parents. But Mama was born here.
When did your mother's family come to this part of the country?
Well, I don't know. Always been here, I guess.
Was your mother Elijah Meggs' sister?
Half.
Half sister.
Mhm.
Well, Elijah's not near the full-blood Choctaw, wasn't he?
Well, his mother was, she was 32, I think, is whatever you call it. They wasn't all that much Choctaw, but you know, me and him, we really took back.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not Choctaw. I'm Cherokee.
Bobby doggone.
Yeah. See, Elijah and them was Choctaw. Elijah and Jesse was.
Huh.
Their mother was.
They didn't get it out of the Meggs. I mean, out of those.
But Grandpa Meggs was no
He was
Choctaw.
Choctaw. I mean, he was
He's
Cherokee.
just part Cherokee.
The woman he married, though, was a Choctaw.
Grandpa Meggs married 3 times. His second wife, Choctaw.
Hmm.
But Bertie and William and Willie, you know,
Mm-hmm.
their mother was a white woman. That was his last wife, his third one.
Huh.
Did your grandfather Meggs, did he come over the Trail of Tears with the Cherokee?
No, No, he was not much Cherokee.
Okay. Well, what kind of work did your father do?
Farmer all of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Mom said if working made you rich, he'd been rich a long time ago. Because he worked hard all his life. Yeah, me and my sister, oldest sister, we was Papa's boys. Of course, the boys come later. We done everything with Papa just like boys, you know.
I was going to ask what chores you did on the farm.
Oh, yeah. Well, we done everything when it got big enough to plow. We never did get to go to school, but this month, maybe out of every year. Of course, we picked cotton, you know, till Christmas and after. Then we went to farm, and maybe we'd go to school a month, have to come out and go breaking up land, planting corn, you know. My sister would, Papa'd run the bedder. My sister would break open the fur, you know, for the corn and cotton, and I'd use a planter.
Yeah.
I'd run the planter. We had 4 mules.
Where did y'all farm at, Miss Stone?
Oh, well, just nearly everywhere around.
I mean, when you was little.
That 1,000-acre place down there.
Yeah, well, that was after I was about grown when Papa went to renting or leasing. places, you know, from Choctaw Indians.
Uh-huh.
And they'd build log houses on. They built two of them. Two different places up there around Mere Thornburg, you know.
That's right north of Chief's house,
Uh-huh.
about 2 miles. You told me you played around there when you was a little girl around the Chief's house.
Oh, well, when I went to school down there at Swink, I'd go home with them kids lived there. They had 16 kids.
What was their name?
Cole, just like putting in the fire, you know.
Was they Choctaw or what?
No, they was
What?
Miss Betty, my grandpa's third wife's sister she was. Her name was Minnie Cole, and she had 16 kids, and they farmed down there. They farmed lots of land down there.
Well, you tell me there's a lot of barns and
It
corrals
was,
around there when you
and
were
there's
kids.
more to that house, a whole lot more.
How much more? Can you remember?
2, 3 more rooms, I guess, sheds or, you know.
Lean-tos.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But Ruby, my helper, told me, and I forgot what year it was, that she was down there. She'd be 70 in July, and that's years ago. She's a little kid, and she said people lived there, and they had the bottom part of that for their mules they kept in, and had corn in that hallway where the stairs was, and had it boxed up.
See, when the Historical Society took it over in '68, they restored.
I know. I've been down there
Yeah.
since then.
But I can't figure out why they didn't put that kitchen back.
I don't know.
I guess it's short of money or something.
Was that kitchen part of the original house? You know?
Well, it must have been. Of course,
One of the old stone fireplaces was at the end of it. We got a
well,
picture.
you know, they had one upstairs and one downstairs fireplace. Is it still that way?
Yeah. One on each
I
end.
never did know them Coles ever having a fire up there. Of course, it was wintertime I was going to school, you know. But it was warm up there. Of course, they had fire down there, you know. The ceiling got warm. And I think they had 4 beds up there in that big room. Of course, there's a big family of them, you know.
Where did they live with? How did they live with 16 kids in that house?
Well, it was a bigger house.
She said there's more lean-tos built
Yeah.
on that house.
Uh-huh.
About what year was that?
1911, 12,
11 and 12.
I think so. Well, I went to school part-time at Fort Towson.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved down there. I went to school down there at Swink, so.
What kind of house did you live in?
Oh, we just lived in the shack. We just lived in 2 beds, 2 rooms, 3 rooms. The kitchen was built long as the 2 rooms was. Used it for dining room and kitchen, you know.
Well, you know, I've known Miss Stone all my life. We used to live right there in
Yeah,
the village.
big old
They
house.
lived right here since I can remember.
Yeah. Well,
Did y'all move from Swink here?
No, we moved from down here on the river. See, we went to Orfield, me and Bob, my husband, and we went twice out there and stayed 2, 3 years and come back. And last time, we come back in 31. And Bob said, well, our kids was growing up and he didn't want them raised up in town. You know, them boys was getting kind of wild.
Yeah.
I'd have to go hunt them up at night,
Yeah.
get them and go to bed.
Yeah.
And they'd be playing hide and seek behind the stores and around.
Yeah.
I'd have time chasing them.
Was there anything left of Dokesville when you were a little girl?
Well, of course, we did live at Oaksville. Papa was a Choctaw teacher, school teacher. He taught them English, but he had an interpreter. Papa was nearly all French, and he couldn't speak Choctaw, but he got that interpreter, you know, and talked the Choctaw English. Of course, Papa graduated from Baylor University. He was a real smart man.
When did he graduate from Baylor?
Huh?
When did he graduate
Oh,
from
I
Baylor?
don't know. Of course, he was 28 when him and Mama married. She was 14.
You don't remember the interpreter, one that done the interpreting in his name?
No, no. Papa told me lots of them, but I done forgot.
Yeah.
You know, them days, all the neighbors we had when I was little was Choctaws.
Yeah.
There wasn't no white people. Nearest Choctaw was 3 miles.
Tell me about Dokesville.
Well,
What the town looked like.
well, I was too little to remember then. Of course, we left here 1901 then. See, and I wasn't big enough to know nothing about it.
Where'd the family move in?
We moved to Little Rock, and of course Grandma was living there, and I don't know if Grandpa, my step-grandpa was. She was a Meggs, you know, my mama was, and then she married later years after Mama was, well, I guess, way before Mama married, rather, yeah. But Mama stayed with Grandpa till she married, stayed here, you know. And Grandma was over in Texas. But anyhow, we moved to Little Rock. Of course, Grandma and them was living there then. And Papa worked for a company and made that Rose City oil mill. And they named it Rose City after Mama. Mama's name was Rosie. And the boss, I had a big old picture. It burned up. I had so many pictures. Big old picture, about 50 black men or maybe more. And there's 4 white men down here in the corner. And one of them black men had a piece of aluminum sheet on, held up the back of them white men, you know. And one of them was the real boss, and Papa and 2 more were straw bosses. They built this big oil mill, and they had 3 places, or 4. You could run wagons in there and gin cotton, you know. And they made cottonseed cake, and meal, and hulls. I know we fed our milk cow meal and hulls. I'll put a water bucket full of hulls in her trough and take several hands full of that meal and sprinkle it around over it.
Shoot, we used to do that.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, we'd eat that cake, a little bit of it, you know, when it'd be coming out of the press.
Yeah.
Great big old sheets of it, you know, that thick. It's so soft and moist. It's real good.
Miss Stone's house burned up here, how many years ago? 3 or 4?
3, uh-huh.
And she lost all of her history.
Yeah.
Pictures and,
Oh,
you know,
I had
stuff.
so many pictures.
And
How old was that house?
Oh, well, I don't know. Bobby said it was built here about 1905, I think.
it was a big, huge house and it set up, oh, I guess
Yeah.
it set that high off the ground. You could, right up that road you could see coming through.
Oh, yeah.
I had an uncle run a grocery store here full time. His name was Brownie Orton, and he used to laugh and say it was the only house in the country that you could get up eggs on it horseback.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the chickens didn't lay on there, keep them open.
Yeah.
Mine just like laying out there in the yard.
Do you remember the Meggs ferry down here on the river?
Oh, goodness, yes, son. We used to play down there so much. Ride that ferry boat when them niggers would tear people across there. You know, that right farm over there.
Across
was
the
a-
river?
Yeah, man lived at Dallas named Wright. Owned all that land across the river from the Meggs ferry. They raised so much cotton. They'd come over here. You see, there's 3 gins at Fort Towson then. And they'd gin their cotton here and sell it here. Buyers would come from everywhere up here at Fort Towson buy cotton. But in them days, Fort Towson was a big town, biggest Hugo at least.
Well, did they bring that cotton from across the river over
Uh-huh,
here?
across that ferry.
From down to Kiamichi, Mouth Kiamichi?
Uh-huh.
That's where the ferry was.
Well, it was a mile up there from Mount Kiamichi. Yeah.
Who owned the ferry?
Grandpa Meggs. He had signs over Paris and all around. I remember seeing when I was young.
How
About
big
as
was
big-
the boat?
Oh, honey, I don't know. They had 2 wagons and mules, I know, at the time on it.
And what did he charge to cross?
I don't know. I think 50 cents or maybe. Probably was 50 cents.
And they had how did they get the boat across the river?
Well, he had a pulley in the cable one way, and then they had them long poles That river wasn't all that deep, you know.
It's shallow right in there where that ferry was.
And they could take 2, 3 niggers, you know, with them poles and just stick it in the mud and help guide it, push it on faster, you know. Had a pulley up there on that cable.
What did they use? Did they use in pulling them ropes? Was the colored? Was they the one that done the rope pulling?
No, there wasn't no rope pulling to it.
Oh.
That pulley just was on this cable and rolled across the river to a big tree, tied around a big tree over there and one tied around a big tree over here.
On each side.
Uh-huh. And
Mama, it had to go through that pulley to let that.
well, of course, they had a rope down there. That's all they had to do. They just pushed that
But it
way
was,
that,
it was on an angle on the river current. Kept
yeah.
pushed the boat across.
And they had them poles to help push it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we used to go down there and play. Grandpa Meggs would raise so many hogs. He had a lot of, about 4 or 5 houses on this place down there, you know, and there's niggers, most of them. And he'd kill about 8 big old hogs every year, you know, and give them niggers some. And we'd go down there and help them, but us kids would play.
When did he build that ferry?
Oh, I don't know.
Before stated in that.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, way before stated.
yeah. Yeah, that railroad was put in here in 1907, I think. Oh, that's when statehood, wasn't it?
Yeah, statehood.
Yeah. Well, that railroad wasn't put in here then, I don't guess. Of course, we went over in Texas to pull bowls, cotton, you know, and that was when me and Bob first married. Lizzie was his first grandchild, Grandpa Meggs, and he was sick. He had bright disease, that's what they called it them days, and we knew he was bad off when we left, so they'd call Mama or send her a telegram or something, and she rode that train over here, and she was so sore. That old train, well, they laid the track, didn't even level off the ground, just going across the pasture where the track was. Mama said, honest goodness, when she's coming back, men would jump off of the train and go to corn patches and get an armful of roasting ears and come back and catch that train. Mama said there's a school teacher, young school teacher on the train with her. She said first time she rode it, says that there's 3 days she had to be turned with a sheet. She's so sore.
How come they just put it out across the...
I don't know. Didn't have any better sense, I guess.
Didn't have the track very
They
long.
called it Ma and Paul.
Oh.
Yeah, Ma and Paul train.
Paris and Mount Pleasant.
Well, I started to say something else, but I forgot.
Well, do you remember the Swinks pretty well?
Yeah. Yes, they had one girl, you know, and she was postmaster there for years.
Hey, Swink?
Mm-hmm.
They named the town after the family? Who'd they name the town of Swink after? Which one of the Swinks?
Yeah, well, the old man Swink. I don't really know his given name. I know of them boys.
Now, he was married to Indian, Swink was.
Yeah.
Choctaw. Can you remember Henry Swink? You know, he got killed down there right above that chief's house, back in about 38. I can remember that. I was just a kid, but I can remember.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Well, he was married to a Garrison. And I don't know what the problem was, but this Miss Garrison told me about this. It is her sister. And he shot her. You see these right here on your head?
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, he shot her and shot them off.
Well, I'll say.
And
I don't remember.
so they took care of her. And they didn't do nothing about it. And eventually they got this Henry Swink out there on that road and they killed him. That was about 38. I remember when they killed him. Killed him right above that chief's house.
Yeah. Where'd you start school?
At Little Rock, Riverside School, right on the river, at Arkansas River. We lived in the edge of Little Rock. Well, it was called Argentry, that side of the river, and the other, Little Rock. Across the bridge was Little Rock. The big town on each side, end of the bridge, you know. And but the last years, good many years, they called it Little Rock, North Little Rock, and I think South Little Rock. But anyhow, his name Argentry when we lived there. We lived out about a mile out of the city limits of Argentry towards Jacksonville. And there's where that oil mill was built there. And me and David been back through there a few years ago. I had a cousin lived there, Jacksonville. And my aunt died there too. I visited her before. And last time me and David's down there, I showed him where that Rose City oil mill was. You could see that big old rose on top of that building, you know. They kept it painted every year, you know, so pretty and bright.
Can you remember 3 banks being at Fort Towson?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Charlene.
Yeah.
What banks were they, the 3 banks?
Oh, no, me, I don't know. I know one of them went busted and Papa had Bob had $15 in it. Never did get it, you know. $15 them days was something.
A lot of money.
Was worth $100 to us. I was telling Ruby this morning, I remember Papa could go to town with $1, bring back enough groceries to do us next week. And I said, we got salt meat for 2 cents a pound. And coffee was 10 cents a pound. And Papa would, you'd get that green coffee. That's what he did. He'd parch it. He'd get him a chair and sit there with the oven just so low, you know, and stir it there, pull it out and stir it every little bit. He never would let it burn. And we had no grinder, you know, on the wall. Wake up everybody every morning grinding coffee. Of course, that's really make a racket. In later years, we got one that's in a box, you know. You could sit in your lap and grind it. Didn't make so much racket.
Do you remember Statehood Day?
Yeah.
Was there a big celebration around here that day?
Well, I don't really know. I guess it must have been. You know, they had it wasn't a homecoming. What was that? They had the Centennial. Yeah. Bobby was in it. He looked more like Choctaw than them Choctaws, didn't he?
I was in that too. I didn't know Bobby was in it.
Oh, gee whiz. He played that white feller, you know, Indian.
I forgot it.
Yeah. You know, that picture of Bobby and, you know, Virginia Eastwood's wife, Daddy.
Elijah Meggs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Bobby was sitting in a cafe down, not the cafe, but at the filling station, and drinking a cold drink. Bobby took off his wig, sitting there drinking him, and Meggs was drinking that cold drink. It's such a plain, good picture. And I give it to Virginia after her daddy died, so she could give it to her mama. Such a good picture, and Virginia was so proud of it. Of course, so that was the latest picture they had of him, you know, too.
Do you remember the Wilsons when they had that big mercantile store there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, there was about 4 or 5 grocery stores and 4 or 5, you know, dry goods stores there. There's an ice plant there. I've been upstairs there where they had all them ice boxes making ice, you know, full of water up there. And they had a box factory.
Can you remember that soda pop factory? It was there where the old Keys Court is?
Yeah.
You know, I own that, and we found some of them old bottles.
Oh,
This bottling company.
well, I see.
What kind of soda pop they make there?
Well, I don't know.
I don't
But
know.
there's old-timey bottles, you know. That's that little old...
Well, it had Indian Territory on it. It didn't have 4,000, it had Indian Territory. There's some of them bottles in 4,000 right now.
Oh,
Yeah. Jim Stokes got 3 or 4.
well, I see.
Yeah.
Well, she ought to take one down there and leave it.
I'm going to get after her pretty soon because she got them off my property over. Of course, I didn't care for getting them. But,
Yeah.
I'd like for her to put one out
Uh-huh.
at that old Sutler store
Yeah.
and maybe one down at the Chief's house where people can see them.
Yeah, They was kind of like them fruit jars, you know.
Yeah.
They had a little wire around or something pull up over the lid, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you tell me about chopping cotton. How do you chop cotton?
Well, we just chopped it and leave 1 or 2 lengths of the hole, width of the hole, you know. 8-inch hole. And we'd leave 1 or 2 little stalks of that cotton in there, you know. And of course we'd cut the grass all out around it.
How long are your cotton rows?
Oh, Lord. I don't know, it seems like it'd be a mile when you go picking it.
And how much could you pick in one day?
Well, of course, when I was little, I didn't pick all that much, but I averaged usually about 300 pounds when I got grown.
That's a good cotton picker.
Yeah.
And how many pounds could you pull?
Oh, at a time?
Yeah.
Oh, 50 and 60 pounds.
I mean, when you pull bowls, how many
Oh,
bowls?
that's about it. The last I pulled.
She talked about her sack. She pulled 50
Oh,
or
yeah.
60
Oh,
pounds.
yeah, and then
Not
we'd go
in a
way
day.
up,
Yeah.
you know, and empty up in the sack. Empty up in the wagon.
You ever pull bowls?
Uh-huh, yeah.
How
Last,
many could you pull in one day?
well, that was about it. That's
Yeah.
what I was counting
Yeah,
on.
okay.
That's 300, and Bob would pull 400.
Miss Stone, tell him how to make soap, how he used to make that soap. He don't
Oh.
know nothing about that.
Oh, but I'll tell you the hard way Grandma did. She'd go out and gather up, take tow sack. She wouldn't get all one load, maybe 2, 3 loads. She'd go find dead cows and horses and things up in the hills, you know. It's free range all up in there, wasn't no fences. And she'd get them old leg bones and bring them home, and she'd take and bust them up and fill up her wash pot, you know, and put her lye in there and water and boil them old bones and make soap out of it. 'Cause the mar was still in them bones, you know. But of course we used hog cracklings, you know.
Those bones make good soap?
Yeah, sure did. We'd use when everybody, you know, killed hogs them days, and made their own lard, and had plenty of meat, and we'd make soap out of the cracklings where we'd cook up the lard.
Did your mother make her own lye?
Yeah, Grandma did. I know Mama didn't. Grandma she'd clean out the fireplace, you know, on the cook stove and carry out there. And Grandpa had a big old deal made out of planks, you know, down like this and up. And it's long, I guess 6 foot long. Grandma would keep her ashes put in there. And then it was kind of sloped just a little bit. And she kept a 3-gallon crock jar down there, you know, and it'd drip. When it'd rain, you know, and make a lye. I mean, it'd make a lye.
I'll be done.
Come off them ashes.
Tell me about rendering lard. How you render lard?
Well, we take dishpans, cut up that fat, and put it in a dishpan, and we'd put a little water in it to start it off, you know, where it wouldn't stick. And then it soon boils the water out, you know, and keep stirring it every little bit. And whenever it got done, all them cracklings come top the grease, you know. You have a pan full of grease, and the cracklings be swiveled up and come to the top.
They sure good, wasn't it?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've salted them and eat them many ones. And we take the rinds. They popped if you put them in an open pan on top of the stove. and you couldn't stay around stir it if you cooked the rind. But we'd take them rind, put them in big bread pans, and put them in the oven, and bake them, and they didn't pop. Grease would pop out on you.
You make sausage?
Make it a lot of times.
Yeah, we.
Hot, I mean, the wash pot.
Yeah, we used to make lard, cook it out in a wash pot. Pop always had a big old paddle made to stir it, and Bob did too when I made soap in the wash pot.
What was your recipe for sausage?
Oh, I just make it up, suit myself.
Tell me how you made them. I know how Mama used to make them sacks, throw them on the machine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I made them little long sacks and stuff them, and you could take and have your pan of, maybe a quart or more hot water boiling on the stove and stirring it and sprinkle meal in it till you get a thin, thick paste. It'd cook, be a thick paste. Well, while it's still warm, not hot, you could rub over them sack sausages, and that would seal it up. I mean, seal it up. Just like it'd be airtight, when that got cold, it just sealed up. And we'd hang them up in the smokehouse and smoke it, a lot of it, with our meat. Of course, we didn't like smoked sausage all that well. And I cooked lots of sausage and put it in 5-gallon crock jars.
That's making me hungry just talking
And
about it.
we'd take that lard, and get it hot and pour over that sausage when we get it in the jar, that big old crock, and fill it covered up. And it'd keep there all winter. You'd go there with a big spoon, just half cook the sausage, that's all we done, for it hold together. And put it in that grease, and you go there any time, dip out so many sausage you want, and finish cooking it just as good as fresh sausage.
What kind of dresses did you wear back then?
I don't know mostly.
Every one of them with an apron on. I can remember them kids.
No.
Every one of the kids I know had aprons on, them girls.
Well, I used to buy material 3 cents a yard. They called it calico, but it wasn't nothing more but what you call print now. They called it calico them days. Yeah, I made my own school clothes. Mama didn't know how to sew nothing.
When I was little, they'd save them flour sacks.
Oh, yeah, I made many. Well, my kids and even grandkids I made out of them, feed sacks.
Yeah.
What they were. You'd take 2 of them feed sacks and make a kid a dress, I'd make the kids a full skirts, just as full as you could get them, and make the blouse a different color than then, and
Chase Daddy down before you get out the door. So now you take a piece of this here and make sure you get a sack of flour the same color as this.
Sack of feed.
Match that other dress.
Yeah.
Miss Stone wasn't wanting to tell about making out them flour sacks.
Oh, wow, she was
Yeah, but I haven't seen her do it.
You make sheets out of flour sacks?
No, I made diapers out of them. Yeah, we bought flour by 50-pound bags, and it's great. Wasn't a yard square, but made a good diaper.
Yeah.
I hem them, wash them, open them
How'd you
up.
keep weevils out of the flour?
Well, I don't know
I
what we
guess
ever
that-
done to flour, but
They
I
didn't
know
last
of
long
peas and beans, things like that, we'd buy that High Life and open the bottle, nearly open, just real loose, and set down in there. We had some kegs, and we'd save peas, a keg full of peas, set a bottle of that High Life down the bottom, and it'd evaporate and come up through there. I'd keep out the weevils.
What is High Life? What does it do?
I don't
My
know.
life, you never.
I tell you, I bought, back in the 40s, I bought 25 pounds of peas off Milton May over here. He's an old-timey store.
Yeah.
And I just put them on my back, tap them in the pickup, set them in the pickup, And I got on home and I set them inside the house, keep the dogs from getting them. Set them in a chair. Well, the next day I planted these trees. And I don't know how come he'd sit in that chair that evening, but I'm going to tell you, you know what high life is when you sit down there. I itched and scratched for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
It burned just like fire.
His brother, older brother, there's all the time putting those seats up there where they mow men and slept. Men come up and there squirm.
Speaking of that, what kind of mischief did you get into when you were small?
Who? Me? Oh, I thought you told today. Well, I don't know if I ever got into anything. If we knowed not to, Papa really did whoop us. He didn't whoop maybe once a year, but I mean, it lasted that long.
That's the way my daddy was.
But Mama would slap us
Yeah.
and threaten us. But Papa, I mean, he didn't threaten or slap you. He got a belt and he whipped you with it. Oh, Papa, we didn't have dates like most girls. Papa went with us everywhere we went. He was willing to first go to church and singing, and them days, that's all they had. Of course, you know, everybody didn't believe in parties, and once in a while somebody would give a birthday party, and it'd turn out to be a dance. Papa would never would let us go. And one time Papa had to go to Hugo on business. He come up to Towson. We lived back up there in the hill. He come to Towson. Well, we lived at Lone Star where we was living.
Lone Star?
Yeah.
Now the dog gone.
Yeah. And that's north of between Valiant Flat and Ruth or somewhere up in there.
Yeah.
I hadn't been back up there.
You wouldn't know it now.
No, I guess
There's
not.
a lake in there.
Well, you know, we could stand in our yard and I could count 7 houses. As many people lived up there, and there's all farmers and lots of woods too, but still, we lived up on the hill, could count every round, you know, 7 houses. And there's an old church house up there close to the roof, I guess still there. It's Choctaws went to all the time.
It's
And
still
you know,
there.
well, you know, all them little rooms or buildings around that church, them Choctaws would have their own little house.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come there and stay count meetings, you know.
4 or 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they built them houses certain direction from the church, their church, where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell where everyone lived, you know, which direction from the church. I thought that was strange.
Any more mischief you get into?
No.
You said your father went to Hugo and you were going
Oh, yeah, we went to a play party. Mama went with us. And Mama said, now, girls, we had a boyfriend. And said, girls, if that turns out to be a dance, now, I'm going to tell you all we're going home and don't you say a word. Come right on. Well, we promised we would. And we did. It turned out they was rolling up the rugs and moving the chairs against the walls, you know, when we left. And Papa said next day when he come in, got off the train there at 4,000, somebody come up and said, Frank, your wife and girls went to a dance last night. Oh, Papa was so mad when he got me. Oh, he thought we'd done something awful sinful.
Now, what's a play party?
Oh, we give lots of them, didn't we, Cotton? Here. I give so many of them here. I was about the only person giving. Of course, I had a bunch of kids. Well, no, wasn't everybody giving, was they, Cotton? No.
People all down in here.
It had to be real friendly people that give. You know, get along with people.
I know a lot of the boys, you know, like Jack Henderson and all them boys, you know, would come out here on horses. You know, Frank Fenlon and them.
Miss Stone and her husband was type people that liked everybody, and everybody felt at home at their house. And that's kind of give those play parties.
Now, what's the difference between a play party and a dance?
Well, you don't arm up and dance. That's one thing. You just play. We play drop the handkerchief.
Post office.
And, yeah, and play blind blind you, and you'd get a hold of someone's hand, on each side, and name who it was, try to. And if you named it right, well, you had to get up and go walk around the house with it, I
Boy,
know.
against
The only
girls.
time you ever got to walk or get away with a girl would be around the house.
You had to hurry back.
Yeah.
If you didn't get back on time, there's gonna be somebody to be hollering for you.
I know.
What are y'all doing?
Back about 1939 down here, William's aunt and uncle had a party. Now, they was the same type of people. Everybody liked them, and the kids got along with them and all. They had this party. I was about 8 years old, I guess. We lived down here on Bird Creek on the hill. And they had one of these old Victrolas, you crank the
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
I'll never will forget this. We was having a big time, and the doggone crank broke.
Oh,
They wound it too tight.
Yeah.
William's oldest brother, Nathan, he'd come out of them hills and come down here, and he was staying here with that be his aunt and uncle. And he took his finger now, and he played that record till
Yeah.
everybody got ready to go home. Every time he played a record, he'd take his finger, and
Oh, I'd say it was that record, right?
was you at that party, David?
I don't remember.
There's that Mr. Kinslow. He
Oh.
took his finger and worked that
I
big
probably
troll.
was.
I bet there's 100 there.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to have good times, I thought. My brothers, they all lived in oil fields, and they'd come down here on the vacations, and they'd bring their kids, and we'd always give a play party for this year, and they'd really have a time. Of course, they wasn't used to it, My brothers would play right in there, always did too, I played right in there like one of the kids all the time.
Now, you say Mama was a year or two older than you?
Uh-huh. You
See, now,
remember
10
what
in our
year?
family, we never did have one in parties. My daddy was real strict.
Yeah, of course I had 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, your mama had the reverse one that I did. I had 4 boys and 6 girls.
She had 7 boys. And 2
Yes,
girls.
that's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking she had 4 girls and 6 boys, but
No, she had 7 boys.
yeah,
and 3
that's
girls.
right.
Now, you
Being-
said that you went to the oil fields?
Yeah. We went out to Borger, Skelletown, close to Borger. Mama and them all lived then out there, and been out there. They went out there when Borger was on a boom, Oh, I went out there in about 23, I guess. And
What kind of town was Borger? What kind of town was Borger at that time?
Borger.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a long town. Just one street. And it's long, house, stores on each side. And, all them oil field towns that way. We lived at Wichita Falls at Burke Burnett one time. That's the way that town was. All the stores was just on one side. Long, wasn't no street. And also it's Skelletown out there, that's where we lived last time. Bob worked in the carbon black plants, where they made that carbon black. There's 3 of them right there around Skelletown. You could see them.
What kind of work did they do in the oil fields?
Well, I had a brother retired from drilling, and then another brother retired from pumping. He pumped oil, Had big tanks that he'd have to go and gauge them every morning, and he'd have to let out, they'd catch so much salt water, and that water'd settle to the bottom. You open the valve at the bottom and let it run, and go off into a pool until you strike oil. It come this oil coming out, and then shut it off,
Miss Stone, do you remember that flu epidemic from
18?
Yeah.
Oh, good night, yes. Everybody had the itch, too, from it. Oh, yeah. Like never in the world, people got rid of that itch. But we finally run on to bought carbolic acid and sulfur and just meat grease, you know.
Uh-huh.
Make a salve out of it. We'd put a teaspoon of that into a cup of maybe grease, you know, and work sulfur in it. Make a salve. And we finally, I guess, kept adding more carbolic acid till we just killed it out. But I mean, you had to boil your clothes every day, and your sheets out in the wash pot. Well, everybody stunk with that sulfur, you know. Somebody told a friend of ours, well, there's preachers, him and her both was preachers. They had one boy. They lived close to us, and they tried everything to get shed that edge. And somebody said they'd boil a pot of old poke salad roots and use that water in your bath water, you know. And they had a hallway, and they put the tub out there in the sunshine of the evening, you know, and get warm. That evening they did. And that night they went out there to take a bath one at a time. Didn't have no lights, and just them three there, you know. And you had used lamps for lights, you know, coral lamps. But anyhow, oh, she said they'd take turns running and jumping off that hole through it, you know, like to burn them up.
Trying to get you out of that itch.
Oh, yeah.
What about the flu? How bad is the flu epidemic?
Oh, so many people died. I had the flu, and I was pregnant with my second child, Joe. He lives over here on the lake. He'll be 70 in October. And I was pregnant about 7 or 8 months gone then. And everybody said I'd sure lose that baby. Well, Papa stayed over there at my house for 2-3 days. Papa was a good doctor, you know, in a way. And he'd buy calomel and oh, what's that other stuff you put with calomel? Blue mass, I believe, call it. And he knowed how to dose it out. He'd take tablet paper, you know, and cut it in little squares. He dosed out on the end of his knife, a little bit of that calomel, a little bit of that blue mass on there. Then he'd fold it up, you know, make doses out of it. Well, Papa stayed over there 2-3 days and kept feeding that to me, you know, every hour, every 2 hours or something, day and night. And that's what saved my life. Of course, they all give me up to die. I was so bad off.
What? Did you lose any folks in that?
No.
You didn't?
No. Papa, I guess that calomel blue mass killed them all, 'cause that's what Papa gave to all of them. Papa used to work, he said, when he was a young man in the hospital. He was in a train wreck. He was a fireman, I think, on a train. And it had a wreck and bunged him up pretty bad. And he was in hospital for 6 or 8 months. Anyhow, when he got able, you know, he didn't have no money to pay for it. And so they just let him work it out, stay there and work it out. And that's what he done, dressed wounds, you know. People was cut and so on that way. And he was a pretty good hand. When I had a lockjaw, I was about 7 years. What is before I started school? Of course, when I went and got a smallpox shot, well, they had to give it to me in my right arm on account of this left arm, you know, it was bad then from them lockjaw shots. And I like to die then. I had malaria fever, and I was sick for a month or two with that malaria fever. And I asked the doctor after that, how come he to take lockjaw, and I never went around no barn or locks, you know. They say that's the way you catch it, going around where cattle or horses had been, you know. But Papa was a foreman on this big place, and right after they built that Rosie oil mill, he moved and took over a big oh, I don't know how many acres of land. There's 7 acres families lived on, and we lived in a big old house. And there's 16 mules. Papa watered, and fed every day. And Papa come in and give me medicine and so on. And I know that's the way I took that lockjaw from his hands, Had to been. And of course I had a baby to die in 42. He's 5 years old. He had lockjaw. And I know what caused that. Of course he was running and him and one of my little granddaughters running across the linoleum we had a linoleum in the hall, and we have the table out there and eat out there. It's closed in hall. And we opened up in summertime, and he scooted off that linoleum onto the floor about that first to the door, You run a splinter in on the ball of his foot. Well, he sat down, and I pulled it out, and it's as big as a match, and it bled. Well, I thought that was the end of it, But his little foot kept getting bad and got so bad, and him running around barefooted this summertime. And I took him to 3 doctors at Hugo. Of course, last time he was having convulsions. He couldn't open his mouth the first time I carried him up there, and the second time they thought he had sore throat. And see, he had lockjaw. And then they phoned in. They couldn't do nothing. They didn't know nothing about lockjaw up here. Hugo. And they phoned in at Oklahoma City. They're sending a patient up there, and me and David and Mabel had a new car then, and we went up there, cured him, and he died that night. Yeah. Them doctors, there's 4 or 5 doctors there. Of course, they never heard of lockjaw either. They wanted to see what it was. And they put him up on this bed, them rollaway beds up high, how they are. And they could just roll him, take the hand, and roll him his head and all. The roll is just stiff as a log.
What is lockjaw? What does it do?
Well, I don't know what it does to your system, but I know your jaws are locked, but I don't know why it'd kill a person.
Well, usually,
of course, it don't have no effect on it.
Jack Henderson died of lockjaw.
I know it. Yeah. Not long after little Earl died. Yeah, he died in 3 days' time. He sat on a nail on the fence.
Horse throwed him out there at Lynn Huskins on a nail.
Yeah.
And that gets infected from that.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I was little, we used to, when we cut ourselves, Mama would take a wash pan, it'd be a aluminum wash pan.
Yeah.
And she'd make you put your hand or foot in there, and she'd pour coal all over.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, coal oil's what we use a lot.
Yeah.
I know when Alice got the rattlesnake bit twice on one foot, same time. Well, I hollered, we was close to the house. We was coming from Grandma's one evening, and Bob would come in from work. And I hollered and told him Alice got a snake bit, rattlesnake bit. I seen that little rattlesnake. She was red spotted, them ground rattlers, up there in the hills. And he had one of them washpans full of coal oil. We bought coal oil in 5-gallon cans, everybody did, in days. Of course, used 2-3 lamps, and then used it making fires, pour on, start a fire up.
We didn't have no electricity, that's the reason.
I know it, yeah, that's right. But we did get rich enough, bought us the Aladdin lamp.
Yeah.
And that was mine yet, like electric lamp.
Yeah.
Light. 1950, yeah.
I didn't get electricity in 1952 up there where I'm at.
Oh, well, it's 1950. I know I'd ordered me an ice box and went to Texas Town and bought a deep freeze, or saved $100 on it. And they said they'd move it in 150 miles, ratings, So they moved it up here, put out there in front of halls, how high that sidewalk was there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's high, way higher than your waist, And that truck just backed up there and pulled it out there. And then Bob and Bobby come up there and picked up and got it.
Any other medicines you can think of that your family used back in the early days?
Yeah, black draw. And castor oil. There's another one.
The black
Oh, did you ever take his black coffee?
Black draw.
I could take that stuff dry, but I couldn't make it. I made a slurp out of it. Kept it on the back of the stove all
Well,
night.
made tea out of it. What it did, you know. You take a cup and
Oh, that was awful to taste stuff.
Well,
3/6 is what.
That quinine, they couldn't get a dose of that quinine to stay down. I could take that black draw.
yeah, the quinine was another good medicine we used.
And not that quinine, that sick syrup. What is what?
I would buy that old 3/6s.
No, that's 3/6.
That's bitter.
I just like taking doses.
I don't know.
Kind of oil.
Salt's about the worst tasting medicine I ever tasted of. I just can't understand salt. Epsom salt. And now, castor oil, so many people, you know, don't like that. But it didn't bother me. I could drink that castor oil. Especially if you had a little orange juice or lemon juice put in it. But we didn't have such that when we was kids.
Castor oil, what you call that, wasn't it?
Yeah, castor oil.
Man, I couldn't, that wouldn't stay down me.
I can't think of that.
I can't think of anything.
We've been talking about an hour.
Oh, wow.
I bet you're getting tired, ain't you,
No,
Miss Stone?
I thought,
First time I see he's eating, well, he come in there and eat dinner and had me come on back, said his back would give him trouble.
Who's that?
His brother.
Oh, John.
First time I seen him, I didn't know his wife had died, and naturally I always got to stick my foot in my mouth. I asked him how his wife was doing. He goes, she just take care of that place right across where I had a trailer house down there in Swink. You know, we had that little place. And then I just talked to her once in a while down there. He said, well, she died about a year ago, David. And I just, well, David, I didn't know it.
O.D. Bates and a guy from Valiant. He's a Christian man, because he's talking to him. They come out here and prayed for me yesterday evening late. First time O.D. ever been out here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the first time.
Well, first time here I knowed of.
First time you come in the praying mood, ain't it?
They come to pray for me. I was surprised.
Well, I'll
But
tell
you know, I can't hardly go to church and sit on them old benches, save my neck. I could go to church if it just go to church and stay an hour. But Charlene and Vivian, they go to Valiant, you know, to Assembly of God Church. Well, they go to Sunday school, and they leave here at 9 o'clock and don't come in till 12:30, and I just can't sit there that long. Of course, holiness people always have longer church than anybody.
How'd you celebrate Christmas in the early days?
Well, Papa usually made eggnog, believe it or not. That's the only time he ever drinks whiskey or any of it, you know. He'd get a little bottle of that whiskey and make up a dishpan full of eggnog. And that'd last us 2 days, you know. And we'd take kept a dipper in the dishpan, you know, and just go there and dip up and fill up your glass. But of course you couldn't drink too much of it. But he didn't have it all that strong either. Of course, it just had a taste, you know. But it was really good. He'd boil his eggs and put in a little flour, I think, or something in it, and cook that milk, you know, and beat them eggs real good, you know, and put in there. Oh, it was really good stuff.
That's the only time he let you try that on Christmas.
Yeah, that's the only time he ever did.
She
Papa.
carried me to whiskey still when I just barely can't remember. And let me drink out of a whiskey lid, you know. You'd have a jar lid, you know,
Oh,
had
Papa
the glass at
didn't.
the bottom of them, you know, they'd hold whiskey.
Well, Papa
You give us
didn't,
all
of
a
course.
taste of that whiskey.
Papa got drunk one time in his life. He was making ties way back up in the hills. And he come in early that day. And he said he come across and run across a whiskey still. he was so far back up there, and he didn't know it was there. Run across the valley there, he come down in there, the whiskey still. He said he stopped to cool off in hot summertime, and said he drank 3 fruit jar lids full. 3 fruit jar lids full, and he just drunk his old out when he come in.
He ready to go home.
Oh yeah, and the first time I ever know Papa drinking, I thought he was bad sick, and I was about 16, and I got a pan of water, sat down on the floor and bathed Papa's face. He lay down in bed, and Mama knew what was wrong with him, because she could smell it.
Yeah.
If I smelled it, I didn't know nothing about it, you know, because I wasn't used to whiskey. When Papa, when Papa vomited, then I could smell it.
Yeah.
Mom wouldn't have nothing to do with him, you know. But Papa sure did thank and praise me afterwards, like I'd saved his life, bathing his face with cool water and putting a rag on his forehead. I thought he had fever.
She was doing her poor old husband that way. He come in drunk one time and he vomited on the porch and she grabbed him by the head and just rubbed him.
Well, he'd been
You
gone.
gonna break him now, wasn't
Well,
you?
he'd been gone after a heifer 3-4 miles longer further than that on a horse. He's going to bring that heifer back. I heard him a-hooping. I thought he said hooping for me to get down there and open the gate at the cow lot. And I run down there and opened the gate and waited for him. He rode on up there in the yard and stopped. And I went on up, they shut the gate, seen he didn't have the heifer. And he had 100 pounds of harsh potatoes he'd bought from somebody up in front of him on the saddle. He said, help me get these potatoes down. I said, I ain't about to help you do nothing. I went right on in the house. And he picked them potatoes off on the ground, you know. And he come on in, he put up the horse. He come on in and there was waiting supper on him. And he didn't want nothing to eat. I had a pallet made out there for one of the kids, baby I guess, on the end of the porch. He run out there and he couldn't make it clean across the pallet, you know. He just fell down there and threw it up on that pallet. I went out there and just rubbed his face in it.
I bet that stopped his tater hunting, didn't it?
Yeah, he never got mad at me or nothing. He knowed he deserved it, I guess.
Well, you all about ready?
Yeah, you ready.
Ma'am, I appreciate this.
Well,
Miss Stone's getting tired.
no, I'm not. That's something I never get tired of talking.
I'll keep talking
My-
right all day.
My kids, you know, comes a lot. Vivian's up here a lot. And Charlie and Bobby comes up every evening.
I bet Bobby comes by 2 or 3 times a day, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What's your address
Yeah,
here?
5 days a week, yeah.
It's Route 4, 4000, Box 2.
Right, 4 box 2,
Mm.
4000. And what's the zip code here?
74,
What?
zip code 4000.
74735.
That's what mine is. 747.
Yeah, I think it's all in that district, yes, like.
Yeah.
Bob, you look familiar. You got folks around here somewhere?
I'm up around
What's your last name?
Todd, T-O-D-D. I'm up around Bartlesville, up northeast
Well,
Oklahoma.
there used to be some Todds up here.
They preachers.
You think about Dodd.
T or Dodd?
No,
T.
T.
T. Oh, no.
Oh,
Over to this.
Let me get this.